So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of change the scenario here just a little bit, and we're going to use some items. What it is in a special live PO, they are mixed vendors, so you can technically have different things. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a best practices, and we're going to actually use your scenario that we did yesterday for you, and I'm going to show you how much easier it will be today, okay? So basically what we did is we had a vendor, just to kind of give you an idea of where we're going to start at, okay? Basically what we did is we have a vendor called Tubes and Hoses here in my play site. And we have two different part numbers that we had assigned to them as generic part numbers. And so a lot of your stuff is generics. And the reason it's called a generic is it kind of depends on who you're going to actually be selling to or who you're buying from. So you might end up getting these adapters from multiple different pieces or places, if that makes sense. However, on your POs and who you're paying, it has to be under a different vendor, even though your items are kind of coming under a general item category. So what I'm going to do to kind of start this process is I'm going to go ahead and select the vendor. So I'm going to start with Tubes and Hoses, and I'm going to create them as the main vendor. This will save me some steps. So I'm going to put some sort of the vendor name in there, and I'm going to hit search. Once it comes back, here's my Tubes and Hoses, and I'm going to say create a PO. The reason I'm creating a PO under this particular vendor, this would be like your internal, your generic parts are all under this vendor. Create the PO. It kind of gives me a little ID number, and I'm going to go ahead and say Special Live. There's a bunch of different options, but the Special Live allows me to get to mixed vendors. And I'm going to say bringing in some adapters. Bringing in some adapters. We're going to come down and we're going to kind of tell it how much we're going to try to bring in. $20 worth of adapters, and yes, they are in my possession. As soon as I hit add the PO, it will pull this information into the system here and basically allows me to kind of start playing with the things. Now, because this vendor is already selected under Tubes and Hoses, I can instantly start putting in the different pieces. And I remembered one of them had a 0 in it. I can't remember the full part number. Okay, so one of them was the 0304C -05. We're going to say we're going to get some of those. We currently have 50 on hand, but we just got some new ones. And we're going to say, hey, we got another 50 of those. We're stocking up for a big job. Once again, this actually got pulled in from the actual details, but technically if I wanted to, I could change it. But it would be better if I actually physically changed it on the actual ID itself, like the physical piece. I'm going to click Add. I'm now going to search for another piece, and I know that another one had like an 04 in it. Oh, this is the BJ-0304. I'm going to say we've got some of those as well. We currently had 75. I don't know if you saw that or not. It's currently 75. So we're going to say I need some more. And we're going to get 50 of these guys. And we're going to go ahead and say add the line item. Now basically what happens here is currently this particular PO number 68 is under Tubes and Hoses. So it's under the generic for our items. Okay. Currently the total is actually 43 instead of 20, so I need to fix some stuff. Also, I want to figure out which vendor I got these from. So yesterday we did an example where we actually changed it to one called Hull Steel, and we actually added the vendor. I'm going to show you how to do that, but I'm also going to show you how easy it would be to add a brand new vendor that you've never ever used before, okay? So currently, right now, we know that we have a math problem, and we know we want to change the vendor. All of this information is on the main PO. It's kind of what holds all the rest of the pieces or my line items. So we're going to scroll up to the top and we're going to hit Edit Main. Now we have two things we need to fix. One is the vendor. We currently are under Tubes and Hoses. And two, the other piece is we need to fix our math. We have a disconnect here. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. Say 43. It doesn't get recorded until I hit edit, so I'm going to just go ahead and edit it. I'm going to do this at 2 separate times, okay? And if you actually knew this number, you could technically do it right here. I'm going to go ahead and just say edit, and that fixes my math problem. Okay, it's very happy now. I'm able to see printable options, but I still have this vendor problem. What I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to search for the steel company that we actually put in there just the other day. Do you remember what we called that thing?
Whole steel.
Okay, I must have misspelled something or something like that. Okay, so anyway, here's this vendor, this whole steel, but I need to get its ID number. So I click on edit, and what it does is it'll show me whole steel's ID number. And Ray, I would highly recommend that you learn how to copy and paste. So you basically select it, and then you go Control-C. That puts it in your virtual memory for a second, okay? It's basically held there. I can now paste it again and again and again wherever I needed to. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my back button, and I'm going to go back to that PO where I was playing at. So right here, it currently is under tubes and hoses. I'm going to click Edit Main. And if I had this information, I could have done this all at the same time. I'm going to replace this one with the new one. Okay? It may not have looked like it changed much, but this is a different number. I can now check the rest of my PO, make sure everything is good, and I say Edit. As soon as I edit it and change it, it automatically flipped it to that new vendor, even though my items that were assigned to it are still under my generic pieces. So that's whole steel. I'm going to do a brand new one, the exact same thing. I'm going to add 2 more items to a new PO to pretend like they're coming in. And if you're okay, I'm going to actually do it under candy, and then I'm going to create a brand new vendor. It's the same thing that what you're going to be doing. The only difference is instead of tubes and hoses and specific adapter numbers, we're actually going to be using candy. But it's basically a generic vendor, which is a local generic thing, a specific part number tied to a generic vendor, and then we're going to end up saying, who do we want to pay? We have to change this payables part. So I'm going to kind of do a different scenario here. So what's going to happen is, let's say I'm anywhere I'm at. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start pulling in some candy, okay? So my candy, if I can't remember which vendor it is, I would need to look at it. So why don't I go check that out real quick? I've got product, and I'm going to go check out my hot tamales. And it'll basically, what it'll do is it'll tell me which vendor it's in. Oh, the name of our vendor is currently ourselves, name of the company. So this is for training. So what I'm going to do is from here, I'm going to actually start the new PO. Vendor, part of the name. It'll pull that vendor up. I'll say create PO. At this point, I'm going to do a special live. And I'm going to come down here and say, great, let's get some candy. Okay, and we're going to grab some. We're going to get $50 worth of candy. And we are going to say, yes, I do have them. Special Live allows me to do mixed vendors. And the reason I'm setting it up with this generic one first is it will save me steps. The steps that it actually saves you is in this next process where you're searching. It's just thinking for a second. Sometimes we have internet issues. Just kind of depends on traffic and connections and etc. I'm going to click back, and I'm going to say add the PO, see if it goes through this time. Great. So here's my PO. It's very simple. I'm on the edit line items page, and I have a little product finder right here and a little product finder at the bottom. 0 line items, just my main PO information. So I can use either one, top or bottom. It doesn't make a bit of difference, but I have to tell it where I'm searching the items from. And for us, I'm actually doing this from ourselves. And I'm going to say, I want my hot tamales. So some portion of the piece, search the products. Okay, hang on just a second. This is not what I wanted it to do. Just a minute. Ourselves, POs, we're going to search products. Oh, not a hot M. I misspelled it. Okay, so basically Shannon caught that. That was great. I misspelled the thing, and when I hit search product, it was like, I don't have anything that matches this. And so I was like, whoa, 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 I know it's in there. So instead of saying add a new product, I was like, I did something wrong. I didn't even read it. This should have been a T instead of an M. Okay, so watch this. I'll just go back and I'll just change that. Good catch, Shannon. So hot tea, boom, there's my hot tamales, and I'm going to add a whole bunch of them. We're going to go grab a bunch and say we got 75 of these little packs of hot tamales. And we're going to say add the item. And we're starting to build. We now have an item in our little PO. The cursor's still blinking there. I'm ready to go. Let's go get some Snickers. Here's the Snickers. We currently have 411. We're stocking up. We know something big's coming up. So maybe it's called Easter, right? Okay, so we're going to get some more of these guys. Let's get 55 of these Snickers. We've already got plenty of them. Let's say add the line item. So what I'm doing right here, Ray, is basically this is the generic vendor. These are my generic items that I'm pulling in. And I could even mix and blend it, okay? Like I have one more piece of candy I know that's underneath this. It's M&M's. If I come over here, basically I say, yep, that's my M&M's. I currently only have 279. I want to get up to about the 500 range, so I'm going to add a whole bunch. Let's get about 250 of these guys. Add that. My value is going to be way off. I originally said it was going to be about 50, and it's currently at 186. Ray, here's another piece that's kind of important. Mostly you will be pulling things in under a standard vendor, but because I'm in this thing called a special live PO that allows for mixed vendors, I could technically even do this. Say I wanted to do, I'm not even sure what I have in here. I think I had some paint or something. We'll just go P, see if what I have under shirt. Okay, so these are actually all under, I have this really weird part number which is called white 3.5V, okay? This is a totally different vendor. Because I said I wanted to do special, I could technically pull in whatever pieces I wanted, okay? Does that make sense how we're mixing a vendor here? It doesn't hurt anything at all. What I'm going to do is that's way too much. I'm going to kill it. Okay, are you sure? Yes, I'm going to go ahead and remove that line item. Go back to it, and it's now here. So currently what I have is I have my generics, my generic vendor, my generic items, my generic pieces. I need to fix the math, and I need to fix the vendor. We're going to actually assign this to a brand new vendor that doesn't even exist right now. Cheryl, what's the name of a candy vendor that we could potentially buy from?
Costco.
Costco. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just check to even see if I have this here. Now, if you're a pen and paper person, Ray, what you would do is you would write this little PO number on a little teeny piece of scratch paper. I need to get back to PO number 70 eventually, okay? So right here, COS, let's see if we have anything under costs. And we don't. So I'm going to say, let's add the vendor. So I'm virtually leaving that PO. It's kind of like sitting on my desk in a way. And now I'm going out to a different part of the world, and I'm going to play in the vendor spot. Add the new vendor. Okay, Cheryl, Costco, C-O-S-T-O. TCO, like that?
Yeah.
Costco?
Co.
Okay, Costco. And we'll just put in some address. And some city. And I keep saying this, but I really hope that you guys actually spend more time putting in your real information than I do. Basically, if you can slam it in quick and you can get the job done, but if you ever go back to search for it, guess what? It has no way of pulling it because it doesn't exist. Okay? I'm going to say add the payee. So Ray, right here, this little special ID number, this new one for Costco is what I would grab. So I would select it, or if you're a pencil and paper person, you would physically write 28670, and that's the vendor ID. I'm going to copy and paste it because I prefer that method. And now eventually I needed to get back to that PO number 70. So if I go PO and I type in either 70 or last, whichever one I wanted to kind of do, I can hit go. And it'll take me right to it. This one happens to say, hey, you've got a math problem. No problem, no problem. I'm planning on fixing that right now. I'm going to click on edit line items. So here's the math problem, 50 and 186, okay? So it's got a math problem. My other thing that I know that I have is this. I've got a vendor problem. So I'm going to click on Edit Main. And currently, for ourselves, our generic vendor ID was 28591. I'm going to now replace that. I'm going to hit backspace. Because I have it in my memory, I can go Control V as in Victor. Okay? So basically, this is the ID number that's going to end up changing this to Costco. I can now scroll down, and I'm going to look. Oh, here's my other piece of the problem that I have a problem with. I'm going to get rid of the 50 and put in the 186. And I'm going to say, okay, everything else looks good. Perfect. Edit the PO. It's now assigned to Costco. That's who I'm going to end up paying. This is very important. On a PO, the main vendor is who you're going to end up paying. What the pieces are could come from anywhere if you're doing a special live. And for you, most of yours are all generic pieces. And so you can add as many generic pieces as you want, and then you can determine who you want to do it to. If I wanted to change this, it's very easy. We just did Costco. I'm going to show you one other way to kind of look up a vendor. Say this was Costco, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I really meant to, that was Sam's Club. That didn't come from Costco. Say I owed Sam's Club. I could go like this. Vendor, part of the name, Sam's, perfect. If I click on Edit, it basically has his ID number right there. So I just double click it or select and drag, go Control Copy, which puts it in my memory. It's virtually a little container in my thing. Now if I wanted, I could use my back button to get to the PO. I could use my quick search. I could go home and then go to the PO homepage. Like 50 million different ways you want to do it. I'm going to actually use my back button this time, okay? Click. Oh, that's the PO I was working on. Perfect. So currently it's under Costco, and I wanted to switch it to Sam's, and basically this is just for the payables portion of it, okay? Edit Main. I'm going to change the Costco ID to the Sam's Club ID number. Everything else looks good. I'm good to go. Edit it. Boom. All of a sudden, Sam's Club now is holding this $186.25. So if I actually check my payables, so here's my payables homepage. Oh, I've got a problem there. I'd have to come back and fix it. So if I go down to Sam's Club and come across, currently I owe $316. As I'm going through this, if I'm verifying it, I'm like, oh my goodness, this 186, I know I'm going back and forth, but say this 186 should really be Costco. How would I fix that? Currently it's under Sam's Club. This 186, PO number 70, say it really should be under Costco. Shannon, can you talk me through the process?
Back and edit the name.
Okay, correct, but I probably want to figure out what that vendor ID is,
Yes.
right? So how would I do that?
You could just search in your vendor quick search right there.
Okay, and we're going to go Costco. So it'll do my search, and then the quickest way to get to the vendor ID number is hit Edit, and then it's right in front of you, okay? It's still thinking, it's thinking. Just a minute, I'll be there. We're going to hit Control Copy, either a back button or physically quick search it back to the PO. How would you like me to get it?
You might not be able to hear us because it's having connection problems. But
No problem. I'm going to hit back. We're going to, in a second. It says, the organizer is experiencing technical difficulty. Unless the organizer rejoins, the meeting will end in 5 minutes.
okay, I'll get back on.
You need the ID number?
It said I'm still here, so
Okay. Ray, you may or may not be able to hear this, but basically we're having some technical difficulties. Just 1 second. Do you need the meeting ID number, Shannon?
yeah, we can try it. We'll see what happens because it says it's still recording and everything. So
Okay. Why don't you go ahead and stop that recording?
Your network connection's been reestablished. So
Okay. Great. Ray, can you chime in through the chat box? We kind of had some technical difficulty there. We want to make sure you're still there. Make sure I didn't lose you.
just having some.
No problem.
Are you okay?
Shannon, what I'm going to do is, why don't you let me go ahead and move pages and see if it actually goes to your screen, okay?
Okay.
So what we were going to be doing is we were trying to change the Sam's Club vendor on PO70 back to Costco. We keep making a mistake, so we're going to hit Edit Main on this. Now, I'd be curious to see if it actually allows you to.
Your audio is back on now.
Okay.
It went through and redid your audio.
Okay.
So, be good.
So Ray, hopefully you're still there with us. A little bit of a technical difficulty, but basically what we're doing is we're taking the Sam's Club vendor ID and we're going to retrade it for the Costco. I'm trying to show you how quick and easy it is to actually trade those vendor ID numbers. And then hit Edit the PO. So right now, as far as everything that's happening, is that everything kind of feels like it's just a little bit slower. It might be just the internet, could be Adilas, could be all sorts of different pieces of the puzzle. What we did is we just changed it back to Costco, okay? So in general, you're able to flip-flop back and forth, no problem. I am going to show you something that we're recording behind the scenes in case you wanted to see what was actually going on. If you click on the history for this particular PO, when it comes up, it'll actually tell us how many different times we changed vendors and from what to what. Okay? So basically, we've been running on this little thing for a couple minutes now. We added some different items. I then removed something because I didn't want it. I updated it. I changed from ourselves to Costco. We then changed from Costco to Sam's, and we then changed from Sam's back to Costco. Okay? So basically what it's doing is it's recording that all behind the scenes. You don't even have to know that. But basically, it's trying to track this story as far as what's going on.
Ray is still there. He missed some of it, but he got most of it.
Okay. Why don't we ask him if he has any specific questions, and we can kind of go from there. So.
Yeah, I asked if there was any particular part we would like to recover.